I presume Alisson Becker starts tonight. There's no doubts about that. It's like the type of thing where Queven Keller is good, but just not quite ready to replace him. And also, you're not going to cast any doubts on any further doubts on his confidence by dropping him for a game this big, right?
No. Well, the Kelleher's injured at the moment anyway, but so Adrian is the option, and that is not an option. And like watching the game the other day, I actually didn't have that much of an issue with Alisson coming out, because unfortunately for Alisson, the game the other day, 17 different central defensive partnerships. So there's a lack of communication there anyway, because he's playing with different defenders every week. This is Kabak making his debut, and Alisson should have shouted for it. I actually had no problem with it coming out, because I actually think if you look at the ball that's played across, everyone's presuming that Kabak deals with that. But, you know, he looked quite nervous on his debut, and Alisson is obviously thinking, you know, we don't have our usual back four, so he's probably trying a bit too hard to sweep up. He did it in the first half successfully a couple of times. He's done it plenty of times this season. But when things aren't going your way, maybe this is just the fine margins. And no, you don't drop him, because, you know, he's been so good. And yeah, I think that there's other issues, obviously. The fact that Liverpool capitulated in the space of 7 minutes in that game would suggest that confidence is a real issue. And I would kind of liken it to a boxer that has suffered a really bad knockout, that their next fight, everything is going well, they're showing why they were such a good boxer anyway, and then they get hit again, and all of a sudden they go into their shell a bit, and things just aren't as good as they used to be. So yeah, Liverpool have a lot of issues. Obviously defensively, Fabinho's out again, and their squad just is not good enough at the moment to deal with all the injuries.
The problems do seem to be all over the pitch. Like, everybody who we had assumed was at a level is below that level at the moment, maybe with the exception of Mo Salah, even though he gives the ball away for one of the goals of the weekend. You can't really blame him for that, I don't think. Like that, I haven't seen a team come so far off the height so quickly in recent memory. I know people are going to point to Manchester City, but maybe Man City is the example that gives Liverpool fans some hope that this is a blip, and next season they come back and they roar back.
Yeah, well, I think the difference, but I think back to previous Liverpool teams, say the Rafa team, when they ran United so close, but then they sold Xabi Alonso to Real Madrid, and the midfield never really looked the same. Then you think of the Rodgers title tilt when Suarez was sold, and things fell apart. But at least with this Liverpool team, you look at the players, it's not as if these players have left. They're just injured. They will come back. Now, we know Van Dijk will come back. We don't know how good he's going to be when he comes back. But even if he never gets to the highest level that he's been at, he is still a much better option than Liverpool have in central defence. But I still think they need to go back into the transfer market for a centre half in the summer. The signings of Davis and come back were short term with a view of long term as well. But the suggestion that all of a sudden Joe Matip's injury record is just going to clear up next season, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. Joe Gomez has had injury problems as well. So they are going to have to invest in central defence. And the knock-on effect from all of this is obviously you've got Jordan Henderson playing in central defence. He's probably going to have to play there again tonight because there's very few options there. You would imagine it's going to be Henderson and Kabak. Maybe he goes with Phillips, who's obviously eligible for Champions League in the knockout stage. He wasn't in the original Champions League squad for the group stage, but and he's done okay when he's been in there. But yeah, it's, as I said, when Liverpool are not scoring enough goals, then the pressure is on both the midfield and the defence, and even the knock-on with the goalkeeper as well, because they just know. I think the feeling I get watching Liverpool now is if they go a goal down, there's no chance of them coming from behind to win. The last time they did that was the 31st of October when they beat West Ham at Anfield. They went a goal down. The previous week they'd gone a goal down to Sheffield United. They came back both those games and won. Jota scored the winning goals in both games, but it was very much a feeling then, yeah, this is like the old Liverpool, even though Van Dijk's not there. This is like the old Liverpool where you concede a goal, but you still back them to win. Whereas now when they concede, you're thinking they're not going to win the game. They'll be doing well to even get a draw out of the game.
How did Leipzig match up against them?
Well, Leipzig are going to play three at the back, and obviously Liverpool fans will be watching Upamecano, who, you know, there was fairly strong link that he might join Liverpool at some stage. We know he's going to Bayern Munich now, and I just feel that you're going to be watching that game tonight, and Upamecano is probably going to have an unbelievable game. Whereas previously, when I've watched him with the view of this guy could be a potential Liverpool player, he hasn't been that impressive. But such is the way football works. He'll probably have an absolute unbelievable game tonight, and you'd be thinking, these Bayern Munich have got themselves one hell of a defender.
Whatever the opposite of buyer's remorse is. Jealousy. So they play three at the back, and you know, we've obviously heard about their passion for pressing. Is that something that Liverpool don't actually like, or is this Liverpool team's midfield strength good enough that they're going to be able to deal with the press from Leipzig and also at the same time engage and animate their own front three?
Yeah, well, I think previously when Liverpool are at full strength and a team wants to press them, they have a player like Van Dijk who can just beat a press by pinging the ball 60 yards, and that the accuracy that he had. Think of back to the season they won the Champions League, Mane's goal away to Bayern Munich, where he just picks Mane out. Van Dijk picks him out from 50 yards. Still an amazing finish for what Mane did, but that's gone now, and that's where you look at Alisson last week against City, where he wasn't that comfortable playing the ball out from the back, so kind of hesitated and he got caught in it, and then obviously his confidence went. So, you know, if you're Liverpool and you're worried about the press, you've got the ball that they play a lot, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson, they just play it down the channel into space and basically say to Mo Salah or Sadio Mane, you try and get out in front and win that. And I think one thing you look at when you're playing a team that has a back three, some teams obviously have three central defenders playing in that back three, whereas other teams will have maybe two recognised centre halves and one fullback who is adapting to this three-man defence, who doesn't actually mind being pulled out into wide areas. So Liverpool can get the centre halves into wide areas. Obviously, that's a position that the Leipzig lads don't want to be in. But yeah, what you can't do with a team that presses is get caught in the ball, because that is obviously just puts you in all sorts of danger. And Liverpool, at times, something that Arsene Wenger said over the weekend, where from the outside it can be quite obvious what the team's problems are, but from the inside you just don't see what it is. And obviously that's something that Wenger would have suffered a lot when he was the Arsenal manager. We used to look at Arsenal for years in big games, just make the same mistake over and over again. And Klopp very much has a way that he wants to play. And, you know, you could think, why don't Liverpool just sit in and become a counter-attacking team? But Klopp doesn't view football like that. He wants to play in the front foot. And he's probably thinking as well, because he doesn't have a full-strength defence, he wants the game to be played as far away from that defence as possible.
Jurgen Klopp said this week that he doesn't need a break. He says, I don't feel I need special support at the moment. There was a banner outside Anfield to tell Klopp he'll never walk alone. Rumours as well that he might leave the club over the last couple of days. Phil, none of this is really based in any concrete information, I'd imagine, but how wavering would you be if you were believing that Jurgen Klopp is going to see out the entirety of this contract? Can you see an end in sight over the next season or two for him?
No, I think just something I obviously pointed out just previously, where obviously there's always going to be that comparison with Dortmund and how things fell away from at Dortmund. But the difference is, the reason things fell away with Dortmund was his best players are getting taken from Bayern Munich. He still has his best players, but unfortunately they're just injured at the moment. So Klopp would be thinking, and I think a lot of Liverpool fans would be thinking, this is a tough season when you consider that at the start of the season, City didn't start well. You would think Liverpool could retain their title quite comfortably. The Van Dijk injury happens, Fabinho slots in. You think, no, do you know what? Things are still looking good. The injury start, we've now started to see that Liverpool's squad just isn't good enough. But we know that when they get certain players back, they'll be in a better position. So I don't think it's any cause for panic, as frustrating as it is. And, you know, if they had certain players back for the Champions League, I think they'd have a really good chance of winning the Champions League. But I just don't think they're strong enough defensively to do it. Even Fabinho is out tonight. Even when he comes back in, it's Fabinho +1. But I still just don't think they're going to be strong enough. In terms of moving forward, the squad definitely needs a bit of investment. How much of a backing he's going to get from FSG, we don't know. maybe that is something that could be an issue in the future, where Klopp just decides, look, you guys aren't in a position to back me, and I can't bring this team any further. We've pretty much taken every last bit out of them, and if you can't back me, then maybe I'll just go, and you need to bring in a different coach, maybe with a different view and a different idea of how to get the best out of these players.
So Steven Gerrard, Liverpool manager next season?
No, definitely not. No, Steven Gerrard, the best place for him to stay is at Rangers and try and build up that experience. Then after that, does he come to another Premier League club? Does he want to? Does he go to the Championship? But if you put Gerrard into the Liverpool dugout next season, I don't think it would be a good thing for Gerrard or for Liverpool.
Frank Lampard would be the best thing to do is look at what's going on at Chelsea, who are probably going to take Liverpool's spot in the Champions League next season.
Possibly they could finish ahead of Liverpool, so Liverpool maybe would have to be looking at Leicester and think maybe they can still catch Leicester, because Chelsea, as good as they've been since Tuchel took charge, look at the fixtures. I'm going to be interested to see how they pan out when they start playing a few tougher teams. Look, he can only do what's put in front of him, and I think Chelsea, when they made that change, would have had that view in mind, where they think, let's get some easy games under his belt, let him get his best team, his best formation, and they'll be all set for those games against Atletico Madrid. But they also have games against United, Everton and Leeds in between those Atletico games. They still have to go to Anfield, they still have to play City. So still a lot for Tuchel and Chelsea to improve on, but they've certainly started the right way, and you would imagine they're in a better position to finish ahead of Liverpool right now.
Give me a prediction for tonight.
I think I'm probably leaning towards a Leipzig 2-1, but it keeps the tie alive. I put it this way, Leipzig don't do 0-0 draws in the Champions League. So the previous 22 Champions League games, none of them have ended goalless. So there's going to be goals. If Liverpool score, they keep the tie alive, but they can't be going 2 down. Then they need to. 2-1 wouldn't be the worst. If they get a score draw, then they're obviously in the driving seat to qualify for the last 8. And then obviously Fabinho becomes an option. Diogo Jota becomes an option. They become a better team, but I still don't think they're going to win the Champions League.
All right, Phil, good stuff. Thanks for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Thanks, lads.
OTB AM live in association with Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. Make sure you join us live tomorrow morning. We've got a great show lined up for you. You might have missed Brian O'Driscoll on OTB AM a little bit earlier on. Just hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. We'll pop the chat into your feed soon. Or you can check out the OTB Podcast Network. You'll find the podcast after 10 o'clock this morning. Obviously, we'll have reaction to Liverpool-Leipzig. We'll talk about the Barca-PSG game. Caoimhe O'Neill's going to join us on the show tomorrow, and plenty more besides. We're going to hear now, though, from Keith Wood and Liam Toland breaking down Ireland's defeat to France.